YouTube censorship, bad. Twitch censorship, bad. Right? We need fully censorship resistant or decentralized YouTube or Twitch. The law is still the law, and just because open source technology exists doesn't mean that that's permission to cause harm to others in society.
Welcome everybody into another space in Coinage's crypto project of the year. Excited to be bringing you another one of these matchups from Coinage, the only community-owned, award-winning media DAO steered by our NFT holders and backed by the co-founder of Netflix. I'm the host of Coinage, Zach Guzman, coming to you live from our Brooklyn studios in New York City, thanks in part to our newest sponsor, BitGo, helping investors and builders alike by offering seamless integration with exchanges and market makers to trade with quality execution from cold storage. With BitGo, provide the most secure asset solutions for your users and builders. Today, we are highlighting two huge projects in the decentralized compute space to be crowned potentially Coinage's crypto project of the year. Congrats to both of them. By the way, Livepeer and Akash. Excited to have on with us once again, Greg Osuri, the founder of Overclock Labs, the builders behind Akash Network, on with us again. And Doug Patonkis here with us as well from Livepeer, the co-founder over there. We, of course, have had Eric Tang on the show before, but Doug, first time you're on with us. Thank you so much for joining us. GM guys, thanks for hopping on. Greg, it's been a minute.
I know, so good to be back. And so good to see you, Doug.
I'm excited to dig into this.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are friendly because you guys both kind of work in the same space. So I'm not expecting this to be a very contentious space, but I think it is one where it's going to be really cool to explore with two founders who have focused a lot on what has become arguably the most exciting opportunity in Web3, given the rise of AI, given the need for computing power, this idea of decentralized computing power, whether it's on the video side, which Livepeer is a leader in, or whether it's just in, I think, Greg, what you guys have been working on in terms of adding GPUs to your network. It's such demand needed right now. So we'll start, I think, with just a little overview of what your guys' projects are all about. And Greg, since you've been on before, maybe our viewers are already a little bit familiar with what you do. So maybe we go to Doug first. Doug, I'll let you explain what Livepeer is all about first, and then we'll get over to Akash.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for having us on, Zach. And you're really excited to hang with our good friends over at Akash as well. So yeah, I'm Doug Pekanex, founder of Livepeer. We've been building the world's open video infrastructure for the past 7 years. And Livepeer is a decentralized video infrastructure network that powers video streaming and video encoding over the internet. So video is 80% of the traffic on the internet. That requires a significant amount of infrastructure to ingest video, encode video, distribute video, and the Livepeer network does a majority of those things, and the surrounding software does a majority of those things, and developers use it to build all sorts of video streaming applications, social applications, live events, and any video use case under the sun. I'll leave it there for now, but yeah, excited to dig in.
Yeah, no, it's really been cool to see, and I think, a lot of people understand video transcoding and the idea of all of these, apps, whether it's TikTok, whether it's Twitch, the need to do that and kind of the options on the market. And normally, they're centralized solutions for those things, but it's been cool to see what Livepeer offers in a decentralized way. Same thing can be said, I think, Greg, about Akash and the idea of decentralized compute, which we highlighted earlier this year. Maybe I'll let you kind of give your best shot at explaining in a nutshell what Akash is all about.
Sure. Akash is the world's first decentralized supercloud. A supercloud is essentially a cloud that sits on, all different clouds, be it private, be it public, and gives a one-stop shop for folks looking for cloud computing resources, right? And what makes it extremely powerful is a decentralized marketplace where folks with compute capacity, be it private or on public cloud, can share with folks that need them and do so in a peer-to-peer manner without a middleman. So that makes it extremely attractive, especially from resource access as well as price point. Akash can do things that traditional clouds cannot. The big one being access to high-density GPUs, be it NVIDIA A100s or H100s, which are essential for machine learning, both in training as well as inference. And do things like permissionless deployments, which is very attractive to a lot of folks that like privacy and that like transparency in terms of what they're getting from a provider. So we've been around for about 4 years live, and now we're seeing an incredible uptick with usage with AI
Yeah.
boom kicking off.
And I think that's kind of the exciting thing to get into now, because obviously 4 years is a long time in crypto space. It's like a lifetime, I think, in the crypto space. But to see kind of the uptick recently is why I think our users have really honed in on both these projects for Crypto Project of the Year, because that's kind of what this is about. It's about finding the opportunities in the space right now and understanding them a bit more, which is why we've been hosting founders from the top 16 projects in crypto as nominated by our NFT holders, which of course, Greg, you are one, so I don't know if that gives you an unfair advantage here. But of course, the vote will happen at coinage.media. We're hoping that people listening along, if you're in the space, throw a like on the space, retweet the space, let people know about these projects and what they're doing for the entire space in general. And Doug, I think that's kind of one of the exciting things too. I don't know how long I think it's taken for LivePeer to settle in here, but it's a major project. And the uptick, again, is the exciting part now. So talk to me about what you've seen this year in kind of moving the roadmap along farther and farther, and what LivePeer's mission is and the inroads you've made on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So for many years, LivePeer has been this decentralized video transcoding network. It's a technical concept. It's how you convert videos from HD format when they're captured to all the different bit rates and kind of encoding types to be delivered on every type of different device and every connection speed. In the last couple of years, there's been a lot of great products built on top of LivePeer that put sort of more capabilities around that end-to-end video streaming, integrations into social applications, integrations into decentralized storage. You can build truly decentralized apps. And in this past year, kind of as you alluded to, we're seeing really exciting momentum around some of the more advanced things that you can do with video due to the rise of the accessibility of artificial intelligence and these open models that are being released. And we published sort of a roadmap update. There's been a lot of R&D efforts to map these onto the network, but we're very excited to bring these forms of AI-specific video compute onto the LivePeer network, because we already have hundreds of node operators all around the world with many GPUs that are on the network that are required to do the computationally intensive AI tasks when it comes to video. That ranges from things like, as we're streaming this video, if you're applying AI compute, you could automatically generate the closed caption subtitles for it without human aid. You can, if you're building a social app, you can have an AI automatically classify whether the video that's streaming may be adult content or copyrighted content, so you can filter that out and not need as much human moderation in the loop. You can do really exciting things with making videos interactive. You can have objects in the video, products be automatically recognized and be clickable. And there's a company called MuseMe built on top of LivePeer that's sort of bringing that to market so that live shopping becomes interactive. And so, looking forward at our roadmap, it's all about, enhancing, adding these exciting capabilities to the network, so the future of video is bright for, everyone who's interacting with it.
Yeah, we'll get into more on what's planned in the alpha leaks for next year in 2024 in just a sec. But before we do, I guess, Greg, the same opportunity for you to look back on the year and see what Akash has been able to do. Because as I said, the excitement is here. I don't know if we have the tail of the tape trying to compare some of it. And it's not all about price. Number go up, maybe hit too hard sometimes. But the numbers are pretty wild when you think about what your guys' projects have done on the year. In particular, I think this narrative of, the need for computing power. Akash's token up, more than 500% this year, I think, Greg. So, what do you look at in terms of the traction that's most important in the metrics that you kind of highlight in kind of seeing where demand is going with Akash?
Yeah, for us, sure, price and all that is great. For us, it really comes down to how many people are using Akash, and because the opportunity here is incredible, right? So we look at, from a simplistic standpoint, just look at daily spend. How much are people spending on Akash? Since the GPU launch, our daily spend increased. The last 90 days, when the GPUs launched, is accounting about 36% of the entire revenue network. So obviously, GPUs are the biggest sort of like revenue generators for Akash. And why that's because, well, for the first time, I think Akash has something a traditional cloud doesn't have, right? Like if you are a machine learning company trying to do any type of fine tuning or training or inference, I mean, these are different types of things you do on machine learning. You need access to high density GPUs. Turns out these high density GPUs are very, very hard to come by. In some cases, like H100s, which are the most advanced chip NVIDIA has made, takes about 2 years to get access to the chip. And if you go to the cloud, they're almost sold out all the time because everybody goes to the cloud. So the only way to really source these chips is to go to people that have the chips, and most of these chips are with people that are doing machine learning. And a lot of times these are unused, at least half the time, right? And these companies own them, and they're not cloud companies, and they turn to Akash to essentially, offload or repurpose their underutilized supply. So having a secondary market is the only solution, turns out, in a scenario where supply chain is extremely constrained and supply for the actual hardware is extremely constrained. So Akash found this very unique sort of like value proposition that the cloud wasn't offering, and it's very obvious now why such an offering is very valuable, right? So,
Yeah.
and like you said, like we were before before the GPUs launch, our daily spend was somewhere around $70 or something. And after GPUs launch, the daily spend is about $2,000, and that's growing on an incredible curve, right? So we're
Yeah, so
seeing
I mean
even
that's
advanced workloads like
it's a pretty intense jump up, and I think if that continues, obviously, it would be pretty, uh, well, I guess pretty impactful in terms of like kind of the direction of where Akash is going. And I guess that's the other big aspect, Greg. We talked about this before in terms of like the total addressable market, the TAM here for what exists in cloud compute and AWS and Azure, and kind of even going after 1% of that, it would be huge numbers. And Doug, on the other side, in terms of video transmission transcoding, I don't know what kind of the pitch is from a numbers perspective. Like, what do you look at in terms of what LivePeer is trying to attack, and I guess the way that you're trying to take on the centralized other solutions?
Yeah, good question. I don't think it's a surprise to anyone who's lived and worked on the internet in the past, 4 years, especially through the pandemic, how important video is to our daily lives. It's how we work. It's how we communicate. It's how we're entertained. It's how we learn, right? And it's like I said, over 80% of the traffic on the internet. It's over a 200 video streaming is over a $200 billion annual market and growing quickly. And basically, traditional cloud infrastructures can barely keep up with the growth of video. In fact, if you want to do live video streaming, um, you need servers that are provisioned, that are standing by idle all around the world in order to ingest video, in order to deliver it close to where people are. And having that like idle unused capacity standing by is very expensive. And so as a result, you see things like cloud providers charging, $3 per hour per kind of ingested video stream just to be available to do that encoding for live video. Whereas in LivePeer's case, it's hugely disruptive to that because it just so happens, kind of as Greg was alluding to, there's all of these GPUs that are already bought, deployed, spread all around the world for different use cases, whether it's machine learning, gaming, cryptocurrency mining, even. And oftentimes these GPUs are being used for that specific purpose. Sometimes they sit idle. However, they all happen to have, or many of them happen to have, video encoding and decoding chips on them that actually don't play a role in the machine learning or in the cryptocurrency mining. And so those parts of the GPUs are just sitting there completely idle 100% of the time. And what the LivePeer software and network allows them to do is to put that capacity onto the LivePeer network for live video encoding without even disrupting the other tasks those GPUs may be doing, whether that's cryptocurrency mining or some other form of compute. And so for all of these hundreds of thousands of GPUs around the world, that's literally additional income they can earn for video encoding with no opportunity cost. And the only cost is their cost of electricity and bandwidth to run that. And that's the difference between the $3 an hour a cloud platform might charge and the couple cents per hour that they need to break even on their electricity. And that's a hugely disruptive opportunity. And that's why video encoding on the LivePeer network is really cost effective and can begin to take a bite into that multi-$100 billion annual market of video streaming.
Yeah, no, it's pretty fascinating. It's exciting to see happen. I think a lot of people have been waiting for real use cases in Web3 beyond just, buy a token, sell it at a higher price, and kind of where this space goes from here. So it's cool to spotlight both Akash and LivePeer on this little celebration of ours in Crypto Project of the Year. Of course, there are 16 projects vying for the title of Crypto Project of the Year. Not just Akash and LivePeer. We got 16 others in the running here, and the voting is now open. I do want to say that you can go to coinage.media/vote to start voting for either one of these projects. It's the whole idea behind what Coinage is decentralized media, trying to chase the stories that you guys are interested in. So let us know, have your voice heard, and we'll see what happens. But beyond it, I think, Greg, you've been on the show before, as I said, in kind of exploring what the opportunities are and how you might do things differently. I'm not sure if you look back on 2023 and if there's something that specifically stands out to the way that you've been operating Akash or kind of the growth that you've seen that became an inflection point that was basically, I guess, how we got here as Akash as a nominee in Crypto Project of the Year.
What we would do differently, I don't think, there's quite a lot of things we would improve upon, right? I don't think we would do anything differently because Akash wouldn't be where it is today if we did anything different, right? And if you ask me, one thing we would probably do a little bit earlier that we haven't done is to go radically open. Akash went radically open beginning of the year. I think I was on your show talking about that process, and that aspect of Akash has been the most fulfilling, right? Turns out we have about 480 contributors now. A year ago, we had about 200 plus contributors, right? So it's almost double in terms of people that contribute to Akash. Akash is what it is because of people that build it, and that come from that doesn't really come from the Overclock Labs, the company that created Akash. We employ about 20 people, right? So over 90% of contributors come from outside the company that created Akash network, and that's a very key metric to measure. So done things differently, I would have done going radically open with the process a lot sooner than what we did a year ago, and also invest a little bit more on, I would say, more hosted solutions instead of just staying purely non-custodial. With AI, it turns out a lot of, there are two essential sects in AI, right? You have the open source AI crowd, which believes in accelerating the development of AI, which believes AI is great for society. And then you have the decelerationalists, or doomers, you call them, people that believe AI should be protected, AI should be closed. So turns out there are a lot of people in the closed source AI arena that want to sort of like deploy models and prefer custodial type of hosted solution. So that's a large market. So if you ask me, like, we could have invested a little bit more in that arena, but we're starting to do that a little bit more. So nothing very different. I think we would have done a few things a little ahead of time instead of doing it later. But
yeah,
either
well,
way.
I think as you and I discussed, obviously when it comes to AI, like you said, there are people who are on the other side saying we should slow down, and Sam Altman's obviously been talked a lot about this year, particularly recently. And the last time you were on, we were talking about ChatGPT and the idea of it connecting to the internet. This was before that kind of happened and what could happen. And Doug, if you extrapolate some of these things out, maybe less so in the video space, but you did mention like filtering some bad things. Are there fears about maybe what could happen when you start making everything permissionless when it comes to video, like dystopian questions that come to mind that you guys have thought about, and maybe how this space could unfold if it goes too far too quickly?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's absolutely paramount. It's a huge responsibility that we take on as builders to make sure that we're uh, building responsibly, we're being thoughtful about the future, that we're enabling, we're creating the right tools and hooks and social processes to make sure that what we're building has the highest likelihood of, being used for good as opposed to being used for evil. I think when a lot of people hear about something like LivePeer, they're, especially from the Web3 space, they may have this immediate reaction of, wow, like censorship resistant video is amazing. YouTube censorship, bad. Twitch censorship, bad, right? We need fully censorship resistant or decentralized YouTube or Twitch, right? I can tell you without a single doubt in my mind that the homepage of the fully decentralized YouTube or fully censorship resistant YouTube would not be a happy place, right? It would be the darkest of the dark of the deepest channels of 4chan and you know the dark days, if you will. And so it's critical that there are applications that are building that take responsibility for their own content distribution and curation policies, that there are tools and hooks for node operators on this network to do things like automated content detection or tap into allow lists of applications that they're happy to work for and whatnot. That doesn't mean that there's centralized gatekeepers. It doesn't mean that there's you can be rugged or deplatformed from open technology and open networks, but it does mean that people have controls and choices over what they're willing to participate in. And of course, the law is still the law, and just because open source technology exists doesn't mean that that's permission to cause harm to others in society who break those laws. So yeah,
Yeah.
all that to say, build with responsibility in mind is something we've taken very seriously from the beginning.
Yeah, and I think having those questions answered is good as you move forward, and maybe some of this gets a little bit trickier as we inch farther and farther down the old permissionless space and allowing some of this technology. And again, no one really knows what the hell's going to happen, I think, around AI and kind of how quickly this takes off. But Greg, maybe that is a good opportunity to shift to look ahead to 2024 and what's planned, because this is the part of the show where our community gets quite excited about some of the alpha leaks for what could be coming on the roadmaps, the plans ahead, as, again, Akash, as we highlighted, one of the hottest projects percentage-wise. But what's planned? What are you excited about for next year, in maybe why Akash will continue that into 2024?
Well, so big thing for us, 2024 is distribution, right? So this year, 2023, was all about product market fit for the AI aspect of it. We have PMF for other aspects of the system, but we wanted to nail the user experience and how people use Akash, both from the provider as well as demand side for GPUs, right? So, and we have a degree of satisfaction. We think we can grow now. The growth for us is folks using Akash without talking to anyone else, right, in a decentralized way. So we're going to be focused and investing heavily on distribution. So that comes in two areas. One is the incentives itself. So Akash right now, those of you not aware, is incentive less, right? It doesn't have any additional incentives besides just getting access to the GPU. So it turns out people just want a lot of GPUs. So people are using Akash, right? Unlike something like Filecoin, where you get paid to store data on the network, right? Akash doesn't do anything like that. But there is incredible value in incentivizing providers. I mean, LifePeer has done an incredible job in incentivizing providers. Helium has done an amazing job as well. And you see other VPN projects, be it iMapper and whatnot. They're very, very, very good at incentivizing supply, and Akash is going to leverage some of those lessons to incentivize supply. So pre-incentives, we got this amazing growth, so we can add incentives on top of that. Essentially, creating mechanism where you come to Akash and you'll never not see empty shelves, right? Like, regardless how big the network is, if the shelves are empty, it's not very attractive. Right now, our A100s, which is the most in-demand chips, are at 95% good, because Akash use network in terms of utilization, but bad because as you are someone that wants to train a model, come to the network and just see only 5% of the chips available, or sometimes no chips available, and that's a turnoff, right? So
Yeah.
we're going to incentivize providers to at least have 50% over excess capacity on Akash, which is hard to do, but I think that's going to be incredibly valuable, and the incentives are designed in a way that uh, the providers are also have a kicker to earn jobs. So that will potentially lead to providers bidding, quoting lower prices,
Hmm.
which is also becoming another problem in Akash right now. Because the demand is so high, providers are, taking advantage of this high demand and like jacking up prices, and that's how capitalism is supposed to work. So free market is supposed to work, and it's working exactly the way we designed it to. But it's
Yeah.
working a little too well, right? So that's not very effective. Um,
Yeah, I think
so
that's
so
that's one of the tricky parts of like having a market. Like you've always described it as like the Airbnb of decentralized cloud, right? So it's like, you need the supply and demand there, and growing both at the same time, I think would be probably like the plan, I suppose.
the cleaning fees are starting to kick in now. So
Yeah. The cleaning fees,
And
bro,
those
they always
incentives,
get
right?
you.
Every supply side incentives.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Doug, on your side, I mean, same question would be to you. I mean, I don't know that there's incentive layers or levels to pull, or what you have planned for live here in the new year.
Yeah, so 2024 is pretty exciting because we have this ambitious roadmap about adding more capabilities to the network and therefore tapping into a larger market who can use LivePeer. But it's paired with this really cool opportunity, which is the community. In the last couple of months, just voted to approve this proposal and this protocol upgrade that introduces an on-chain treasury into LivePeer for the first time. So every day live peer tokens flow into this community governed on-chain treasury, and people can make proposals to access funding in order to build public goods in the ecosystem and use to accomplish this ambitious roadmap of adding more forms of AI-based video compute, more types of businesses that serve different market segments in the video ecosystem. So really excited to see progress on both those directions. Just to give a little context, there's really been one main business called LivePeer Studio, run by my co-founder Eric, that has wrapped the LivePeer network. They bundled together different services to create a great video developer experience, and they have hundreds of users, and that drives a lot of the usage on the network. But there's opportunities to serve other markets beyond just the video developers. There's live events. There's video content marketers. There's many different use cases in video, and so I think this is the year we start to see, because of this treasury and the decentralization it enables, a more full and robust ecosystem driving a lot of demand to the network.
Yeah, I mean, again, this might be one of the trickier matchups we have in this entire celebration of the top projects because, again, you guys are kind of working in the same spot a little bit, I think, in terms of the mission that we are seeing. And again, the vote is now open at coinage.media. These are friendly conversations, though, generally speaking. And I know you guys are kind of allied in the vision for how some of these, technical processes can be decentralized using the technology that both Akash and LivePeer are pioneering here. I do think, in some of the questions that other people have from our community around the creative use cases that you guys have seen, obviously, I think this changes kind of like on the daily when AI is getting introduced and new apps are popping up. But Greg, I don't know if there's something that you've seen that's like, the more creative use cases of Akash that you've seen since the protocol launched.
I'm sorry, you broke up a little bit there, but is the question around what are some of the creative use cases that around
Yeah.
Akash?
Yeah.
So we saw, for the first time, we saw a, a foundational model being completely trained on a decentralized network. It has never happened before. The normal, the popular belief is foundational networks need low latency GPUs in order to be trained, and decentralization doesn't necessarily provide that low latency. So decentralization is not optimal for training large LLMs, large language models. But that has been disproved. There's a model called Thumper that's currently being trained with 24,000 A100 hours on Akash network right now. And the idea is to give a copyright-free stable diffusion image generation model where media companies like yours can comfortably use an image generator without having to worry about copyright. So we thought that was an interesting use case. It's very useful, especially if you don't want to get sued from people that have copyrights and whatnot. That's being completely trained right now on Akash. We're seeing a lot of, it's very interesting. Another use case that we haven't really quite uh, thought about when we launch GPUs, but it's starting to take shape is how AI or especially like image generation models can accelerate game development, like
Hmm.
especially creating in-game characters, right? So, or like even movies, right? So if you were to do animations quickly, you want to change things quickly. There are enormous amounts of tools right now you can use called Comfy UI or ControlNet or Stable Diffusion together and come up with this highly productive way to create content. So we're seeing that kind of take off quite a lot. We're seeing a lot of game studios now hopping on Akash. A lot of really, even like movie studios taking a look at Akash for Stable Diffusion and whatnot. So I think these two are the most creative use cases I've seen so far. But
Yeah.
you know, and not so creative, very common use case we are seeing is just documentation. Like putting a documentation and an LLM on documentation is so helpful because you no longer need a Stack Overflow. You can just ask the system any question, and the system will respond in a way that is optimal for you. So we're seeing quite a lot of that, like dumb but still very very useful.
Yeah, I don't want to belittle anything. Everything is equally important if it works, I suppose, is the main thing, right? When it comes to some of this stuff. And Doug, on the other side, Eric, when he was on Coinage, it was kind of interesting to see some of the live streaming use cases, even out here in New York. I know there's, what is it, a DJ booth that I think has been doing like 24/7 or every day live streams using LivePeer. Like, what have you seen as maybe your most exciting creative examples to point to?
Yeah, that's a great example. So I think the use cases run the gamut from like just traditional video streaming, like what you were just referring to a radio station in Brooklyn called the Lot Radio. It's an indie radio station that streams out of Brooklyn, a shipping container in Brooklyn. There's a bar right next to it. People hang out in Williamsburg, and they've been 24/7 live streaming for years with the DJs that are running the sets and live performances and whatnot. So very exciting but traditional use case, something like God Behind Bars, which is a live streaming of church and religious services into prisons actually, so inmates can sort of get access to those sorts of things is inspirational in the traditional sense. But then you push more towards, hey, what's new and innovative in Web3, right? Sort of in the middle, I would look at what I'll call decentralized or alternative social media, trying to sort of put control back in the hands of the creators and the consumers. Things like the Lens protocol ecosystem, LivePeer powers all the video within popular apps there, like
Hmm.
LensTube and so that videos can be NFTs and can be collected and be controlled by creators across these apps. And then I'm excited about the future of on-chain media and some of the really innovative experiments, things that are enabled when it comes to combining media and video with blockchains. And I'm waiting for the breakout killer examples to emerge there, but I think it's interesting when you think about combining, hey, AIs can generate video, but you need humans to curate them or to give input or to say what's actually useful here. And then that those created assets should actually be, logged on chain in terms of how they were created, who owns them, how they're monetized. And I think blockchains are great for having humans coordinate around those things. And really excited to see some of the more forward-thinking experiments in that space, because I think that'll lead to the next sort of breakout moments in media, just the same way that maybe CryptoKitties catalyzed the NFT movement, or Axie Infinity catalyzed sort of X to earn movements. I think we're going to see similar breakouts in media. So I'm excited for those, while also bringing enormous cost savings to the huge traditional video industry. So I
Yeah.
think that practice aspect is really important.
Yeah, I think that that's always constantly like kind of why I've been interested in both these projects and why our community maybe nominated them for Crypto Project of the Year, because I think the cost savings is another big piece of kind of, taking a decentralized option versus a centralized option. And obviously, sure, if you're into, I guess, the cult ethos of everything should be decentralized, you might just go off of that. But if it's truly cheaper, that's a whole nother thing where you get mainstream adoption just because it's the better option. And Greg, you and I have talked about AWS and Azure and kind of some of those things. I mean, maybe just to seal this up, when we get into the final chapter here, boys, of really selling why Akash or LivePeer should move forward in the crypto project of the year, this is your chance to sell it, guys. This is your chance to really nail it home for everyone watching. Greg, I'll turn it to you first. Maybe the final like kind of close to sell Akash. Why is it better than the other options?
Well, I saw the stat somewhere. I can't quite collect where it is, but the stat said something about in 10 years, I believe about 5% of global GDP will be spent on AI or powering AI. So if you think about, and there's, some degree of truth to it, because AI will, accelerate, and as it gets more embedded into our life, the need for it is only going to go up. So if you think about 5% of the global GDP being spent on, compute and powering AI, you can imagine how big the opportunity we have with Akash. Now, not forward-looking statements, but you can do the math yourself.
Yeah, I think it's not so much forward-looking statement so much as it is just wrapping our heads around opportunities and numbers and kind of how big these opportunities may be. And Doug, same thing over to you.
Yeah, I think you highlighted this before. There's a lot of similarities between Akash and LivePeer. We're close friends. I think it's worth recognizing, we're part of this category called DePIN, or Decentralized Physical Infrastructure Networks. And I think, Zach, you recognized it, that a lot of the projects in this category are not just speculative, forward-thinking ideas, and philosophies. They're actually delivering a real-world impact to big existing industries. And LivePeer has always been, for 7 years, mission oriented. We've always stuck with world's open video infrastructure, and that's not a year-long vision. It's more of a decade-long vision. And we may be more suited to be like a project of the decade than a project of any one particular year. But it's that commitment to always creating an open alternative infrastructure for video, one of the most popular forms of media for all of our lives. That puts the filter on everything that we do. So, as we think about, how disruptions like NFTs matter, it's only in the lens of video. As we think of how AI compute matters, it's only in the lens of video. And that helps everyone interacting with LivePeer know that it's for them, know what kind of impact it delivers, and knows, what they can build with it. So we're gonna stay committed to that, and excited about the next few years.
And ultimately, it's going to be very hard work, because Akash and LivePeer are contributing to the same vision in completely different ways and with completely different focuses, right? So it's a very hard pick. It's not quite, compare the numbers, because they're very different systems all in itself, right? So good luck to our fan, and we have a lot of shared community.
Yeah, the overlap in all of it, I think it is maybe a good pivot point, Doug. I take your review in stride. Maybe we should back up and think about Project of the Decade as another thing we could do, because it does make sense. The projects that I think and that I hope that we're highlighting in this are likely to be around longest. And probably not a surprise that so much attention has come onto you guys this year for both of what you guys are doing. But again, I say congrats to you both. Congrats to the LivePeer squad. Congrats to Akash Network for a great 2023. As we always do here as a decentralized media organization, I can speak for our community members in terms of how excited they are for what you guys were able to do, move the space forward. That's what we're all here trying to do as well. So Doug, Greg, I thank you both for coming on. Congrats to you both. The Coinage.media vote is now open. You can go there, Coinage.media/vote, to support which project we move forward in this spotlight. Guys, thank you so much again for coming on, and thanks to our sponsor, BitGo, for making this all happen. We'll chat again soon. Good luck to you both. And if I don't see you before 2024, have a great Happy New Year and holiday season. That'll do it for us here on Coinage. Of course, we'll continue with the bracket later on next week. And if you haven't voted, those votes will remain open for 2 weeks as we continue to search for crypto's project of the year. For Doug, for Greg, for myself, and everyone here at Coinage, thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you again soon.